All right. So now you choose a story. You have this script. But one thing I didn't talk about was how to choose a story. Like, why choose, say, Rudy? Why choose that as opposed to, there could be 1,000 different football stories that you can choose. Why choose one over the other? Like, what is it about, say, Rudy that makes it a better story to choose than, say, something else? And I'll tell you what the answer should be. All right. Most filmmakers will say the answer is because I love that story. Because
Uh-huh.
it just feels so good and I love it. And
The
it's
passion.
the passion and it's a movie that I want to make because I loved hearing about it and I love reading about it and it just feels good. It feels right. And I say, okay, that's sort of the right answer, but for the wrong reason. You just said it's something that I love. It's something that I'm
Mm,
going to be passionate about. So the answer's right, but the reason's wrong. What you should have said is, I really think that the audience is going to love this. It
okay.
doesn't matter necessarily what you think. I mean, it matters because you're going to make the movie, but the reason, if you want to make a commercially viable movie, the reason you should do it is because the audience is going to like it. Now, it's great that you're going to like it too, and you're part of the audience, okay? But there's things that you might like that the audience won't like. You're making the movie for the audience. So you need to really step aside, put your own ego aside and your own agenda, and you got to think, what will my audience really like to see? What can I sell? What will be marketable? This is what studios, Hollywood studios, do really well.
Mm.
They have an big marketing departments that really focus on what's the trend, what do people want to see, how do they want to see it, what, like, in their case, which A-list actors should they put in, how will the marketing look, what explosions, what posters, what artwork, so they do it differently. Indie filmmakers don't have the resources to do that. But what indie filmmakers make the huge mistake of doing is not thinking about their audience while they're choosing their project and designing the project. They only think about themselves. They think, I have this wonderful, passionate story that has always resonated with me in my life, and I think it would something that I really want to do and a story that I really want to tell. And I say, that's great. Do you think anybody wants to hear that story other than your mother? Okay. Like, is this something that the audience wants to see? Now, in the case of Rudy, it's easy to say, yes, audiences want to see. I mean, audience will totally relate to this inspirational, hardworking, persistent guy who just has this dream to play for Notre Dame. Audiences will relate to that. Even people who don't play football will relate to that
Hmm.
because it's about perseverance and the human spirit. And that's why I want it. So if you say the reason I want to do this story is because I think it'll resonate really well with audiences, then that's the right reason to do it. Okay. If you want to make a commercially viable film. Now, if we were doing a marketing session, which we're sort of doing here, so then you would say, okay, that's why I think it'll resonate well with audiences. Then let's dissect that a little bit. All right. What audience? Who's the audience? Like, who is the core niche audience for this film? I'm asking you that. Who's going to really want to watch that film? If nobody else watches it, who will watch it for sure?
Well, football fans. Football fans,
Get more specific. We're talking Rudy.
people who go through the struggle,
And who are those people?
blue collar workers.
No, who is Rudy? What was Rudy? Rudy, we're talking high school football players.
Not very talented.
Not they can be talented, but
Okay.
what high school football player would not want to watch that movie? This is the struggle of a high school football
Of
player
every high school football
who
player.
wants to go to college on a big name college,
Right.
right? So for sure, you're pretty well going to get every high school football player
Okay.
is going to watch that movie, right?
Okay.
Now, how many people in the United States? How many high schools are there, and how many football teams, and how many people play high school football?
Almost everyone who plays high school football has that dream.
Absolutely, but how many people are there? If you had to guess, if you had to just take a random guess, I don't know the number, but we're just going to make it up.
I mean, there's at least 50 to 100 people per class that are on the team.
And how many
That's
teams?
millions of people.
So let's call it across the United States. Let's say every year there's 2 million high school football players who would love to watch
Right.
this.
Okay.
So let's say you have an audience of potentially 2 million people. That's your core audience. I mean, they're going to want to watch this movie for sure. Okay. Now, we assume anybody who's ever played football will want to watch it. Everybody who desires to play football. And I'm going to go, much bigger. Anybody who loves sports is going to want to watch it. Everybody who loves inspirational stories. So we're going like from 2 million to 5 million to 10 million to 20 million. Anybody who loves inspirational stories, that's 100 million people. All right. But we're not going to be able to necessarily get to 100 million people to start with. Sooner or later, we will.
Start
hopefully.
more niche.
We're going to start core niche.
Okay.
At the very, very least, the worst case scenario, we got to be able to sell this to high school football players because it's they can so relate to it and they're going to want to see it.
It resonates with them.
Yeah, it does resonate. Okay.
Okay.
But that's our core niche audience. So when I say to you, okay, why do you want to make this film? Because I think there's going to be a gigantic audience who loves inspirational sports films. But at the very worst case scenario, every high school football player is going to want to watch this.
Okay.
And that's about 2 million people. All right. Made the number up, right? But let's just call it that. All right. I say, okay, great. That's I like that. I like that plan a lot because now you're focused on who your audience is.
Okay.
And now you're focused on making the film that audience is going to really want to see. Now, question number 2. How are you going to connect to that audience? Like, how are you going to be able to, when your film is finished, how are you going to be able to reach out to all the high schools across the country and tell them, hey, I made a great film and I want you to watch it? How do you make that connection? Which is called marketing.
You'd have to get on that level of people. You'd have to touch those high schoolers. Maybe social media.
Social media for sure, but social media is very diluted, as you know. A lot of people on social media, it's a crowded space, and they don't have a lot of attention. Do better. Did you play high school football?
Yeah.
Okay. Who'd you play for?
Torrey Pines.
Oh, you played for Torrey Pines.
I
Big team.
played for Ashby.
Big team.
Yeah.
Big team. Okay. Now, let's think. If they wanted, some filmmaker made a movie and wanted to get to you.
Sponsorship.
Better than that. If you heard about this movie from somebody, you'd watch this movie. Who would that somebody be?
A teammate.
How about your coach?
Coach.
If your coach in the locker room said to all you guys, hey guys, I know you all have this great dream. I just saw this great movie called Rudy. You all have to watch it.
You guys would love it.
Okay. Who on the team would not watch that movie?
Everyone will watch it.
Everybody. All right. So what if you could get to all the coaches?
Okay.
Now, the coaches, are they part of an association? There's got to be some type of high school football association or something like that.
There's got to be.
That probably administers, equipment and stuff and all this kind of stuff. I don't know. I haven't done the high school football thing, but I got to assume that the coaches talk to each other or are parts of coaching associations or organizations. So if you were to get to those, let's say there is, I'm making it up, but let's say the organization, this I know for gymnastics, there's a governing body for gymnastics. So maybe there's a governing body across the United States for high school football, for safety and learning and whatever, development and maybe recruiting or whatever. If you could get to those people and say, hey, I'm going to be making this great movie, or I made this great movie. So your marketing plan might be, I made this great movie. It really resonates well. I'd like your board of directors of this association to watch this movie. And if you think it's good enough, can you endorse this to every high school coach across the country? Because we want high school football players to watch this movie and be inspired by it. And the way for us to do that would be through the coaches, because when the coaches tell them to watch it, then it's magical.
Yeah.
When we reach out, it's like we're just another movie producer hoping they'll watch our movie. But when a coach says, I watched this movie, or the board of directors of your organization says, we watched this movie and this movie is good and you need to see this, and tell the coaches and the coaches tell the players, you're going to hit that core audience. That is good marketing. Really, really good. In addition to social media. In addition, you'll try to be reaching out to say the football teams each have like a Facebook page, right? Every football team probably. Maybe some of the equipment manufacturers, maybe this, maybe that. The trick is those people are out there. I mean, the real grassroots way to do it would be like, to go to every high school across the country and stand during a practice and hand them DVDs afterwards, or say one player, say the captain of the team, can you watch this? Here's our movie and here's a screening link for it. And can you watch it and tell your fellow players? It's just a lot of work to do that. But that's what it's all about. It's making the connection with the core audience who you think is going to support it. Because if all those football players on each of those teams, and you said, you had 60 people on your team or something?
Yeah.
Okay. And you guys were, a lot leaders in the school, and you're the football jocks and all this kind of stuff. Think of if everybody on your team watched that movie and loved it, how many other people you would tell in the school. Every single person in the school would know about that movie.
Yeah.
Because you would tell the other athletes, and they would tell their friends, and you would tell your friends, and pretty well 2,500 people or whatever it is in Torrey Pines will watch that movie, and then they'll tell their family, and their family will tell each other, and that is how it grows. It grows from there, but you got to start somewhere. Mm-hmm. And as an indie filmmaker, you don't have the resources to do like big television advertising or big campaigns, even big social media campaigns, and you got no A-list actors or anything like that. So you need really, really effective grassroots marketing things to do. But the reason I like the movie you chose is because you can actually do that in that. So one of the ways that I say to indie filmmakers is choose a movie that will lend itself to marketing. Like why? So the reason I like your sports...
That'll be marketing friendly.
Marketing friendly.
Okay.
So the reason I like your sports drama film way better than your crime thriller is a crime thriller, it's hard to connect to audiences. Like who are the audience? Males 18 to 39. Let's say that's your audience. Well, how do you get to those people? Like that's so generic.
Yeah.
If you say I'm doing, a high school football movie and I need football players, high school football players who are 16 to 19. I mean, you know where to go to get them. They're in the high school on the teams.
Right.
The marketing is so much more direct, so much more effective and really attainable. Whereas the thriller, the action cop thriller, yes, there's an audience out there, but it's just hard to connect to that audience. So as a first-time filmmaker, if you want to give yourself a chance to be successful, choose a story that you actually can figure out how to market before you. So the story should be chosen, one, because you like it, okay, but two, because you have a plan on how to market it. And so you do this long before you make the movie. You can't do the movie and then because you might have chosen the wrong story. So strategically, you want to choose a story that's super marketable and that you have already the plan laid out on how you're going to market it. Now, even before you shoot the movie, you might want to do some marketing. It's hard to do this, but let's say, you played football, so let's say you go to, half a dozen high school coaches and say, here's the kind of movie I want to make. What do you think? Like get some input from them. The reason I'm asking you for input now is because when I finish the movie, I want you to help me endorse it. So I want to make sure I make the right movie. Can you read this? Can you take a minute, read the script, take an hour and a half, whatever, read the script and give me some feedback because I want to make sure the movie I'm making will resonate with your athletes, even though I played football, so I know, but you're a coach and I don't want to make any mistakes in that movie because I want to be able to come to the high school football teams and ask coaches like you to be able to endorse it to your players.
Okay.
So can you give me feedback now so that I don't make any mistakes? I want to make a great movie for this audience. And you guys are the pros of this audience. You are the ambassadors of high school football. So it would be great if I got feedback so that I don't make the mistake so that afterwards when I come to you, it'll be easy for you to endorse it and say to your players, assuming I make a good movie, it's a piece of crap, I don't expect anything. But assuming I make a great movie, I don't want you to say to me, oh, well, if you would have done this differently or this character or this relationship is not good or I don't like the way this kid spoke to the coach in the movie. Let's get that out of the way now so that we can make something that's super marketable.
Okay.
That's what studios do. They're really good at it. Now, they don't do it as granular as I just said, but literally if I was doing that, I would exactly do it that way.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to, if you get one chance to do this properly, once you're shot and you're packaged and done and post-produced and everything, you can't change it. You got to do this right up front. So why not get the feedback up front? Why not determine exactly who the audience is and who you're making this movie for up front, so you don't have to struggle afterwards? Because the one thing you don't want to have to do is say, well, if I only would have known, or if I only would have done it that way. See, so that's kind of how I choose my scripts. I say, who's the audience I'm going after? Can I connect to that audience? It's not good enough that the audience is 18 to 39-year-old males, because I can't connect to them. High school football players, I can connect to them, as long as I make the right movie that will connect with them. So that's part of choosing the right script and the right story that you can market. This is a lot of indie filmmakers. Most indie filmmakers don't do that. They say, this is the story I want to make. This is the story that I'm passionate about. This is the story I love. And I say, that's great, but you're not going to be able to sell it because nobody else is passionate about it. No, or how are you going to connect that to audiences? Like, why are you setting yourself up for the hardest marketing campaign in the history of mankind? Even the studios wouldn't do that. And they got tens of millions of dollars. You got nothing, to market with. Why not give yourself a fighting chance? Why not choose a story that actually will, exactly what the marketing plan is before you make the movie? Set yourself up for success. Does that make sense?
Most people just get tunnel vision on their dream.
Correct. Because it's about them. It's not about the audience. It's not about the marketing plan. It's just about I'm an artist. Here's what they say. I'm an artist. I have a vision. I need to tell my story the way I need to tell it. And I say, no problem. Don't expect to make any money because you got to think about who your audience is and the story that they want to hear and tell it that way. And is it a bit of a compromise? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe the vision that you have is exactly the same that the audience wants to see, but make sure you know who your audience is before, because it's too late to change it after.
I feel like that's the most important thing.
I would say that's amongst the most important. Okay,
you could have an incredible movie, but if no one's going to resonate with it or watch it,
that is correct.
You don't have anything.
So, and that's the second most important thing. So you said the most important thing maybe is to make sure that you make the movie that the audience that you identify the audience and that they're going to watch it. I would say yes, no problem, but you also have to make a good movie, as you said. You could have the most incredible movie, but if you have no audience, you mess. You're not making money. Mm-hmm. But you could have the best audience, like you'd have the best marketing plan, like this football, but then you can make a bad movie, and then you're out of luck either.
Yeah.
So you have to do both. You have to have a really good marketing vision and plan, and know who your audience is, and you have to make the right movie that resonates with them. So you have to do both things. They're both equally important, because having the best marketing plan is only viable if you have a great movie.
Okay.
But having a great movie is not viable if you don't have the audience, if you don't know how to get to that audience.
This is one of the most important points of the development of the movie.
It is the single most important point if you want to make money with an indie film, because it's so hard to do marketing. It is so hard to get messages out there to audiences and have them hopefully pay for what you're selling them. This is, if anything, you take anything out of this whole journey that we're going to go on, it's know who you're making your film for and know that you have an avenue to get to them before you make your movie, or else I'm going to say to you, don't make that movie. Make a different movie.
Yeah.
If you want to be commercially viable. If you're not worried about that, some filmmakers say to me, I just want to make a great movie. I want to get into festivals. I want to win some awards. And I say, okay, who's paying for it? We'll figure that out later. Who's getting their money back? We'll figure that out. I say, if you're lucky, you'll get to make one movie. Everybody will lose a ton of money. Nobody will ever trust you again. You'll never make another movie. If you want to be a film, like a career filmmaker who has the ability to make films over and over and over, you got to return a profit to your investors and to yourself. You got to make a living, and what you make has to sell. Mm-hmm. So tell me any other business where people go into it and say, I'm not worried about making money. Show me one business. Like people open a restaurant and say, oh, I just want to make good food. No, I want to make food that people are going to enjoy and pay for. No, you go out of business. And I'm sure a lot of restaurateurs do go out of business for that reason. because they're not thinking about who their customers are and what their customers want. So you can do both. Artists think, oh no, I got to focus on the story in the film. And I say, yes, of course you do. You have to make a great movie. But you can multitask. You can also think about your audience. You can make this great movie and think about how it's going to connect to the audience, and think about who your audience is before you do it. Because if you can't do this, all right, I'm telling you, if you cannot identify who your core audience is and how you're going to connect with them, okay, not just because you said my core audience is 18 to 39-year-old males, and I say, great, but you're not going to be able to connect with them. So you have to have both things, who they are and how to connect with them. And if you can't do that, do not make that movie, or expect to lose a lot of money when you make that movie, because it's not going to magically happen after the fact. It doesn't all of a sudden a marketing plan appears out of nowhere. Nope, you got to have this all pre-planned. This is probably the most critical thing. You're right.
Okay.
But that's why I love this whole football sports drama thing, because it's a genre that, and I didn't even know you played high school football, but now that I do, that world. And you've been there, done that. You know what will resonate with people. So as a filmmaker, hopefully you will be able to make a film that connects to those people, so that when you go to market to them, you made the right film. But at least you'll know how to get to them. And that's why I'm saying the coaches in that world is a real touch point. Maybe the trainers, maybe, I don't know. You know that world better than I do. But can you imagine, like I said, your coach sits you down, on the field or in your dressing room, your whole team, and says, guys, this is a great sports football team movie, and you guys should watch it because you'll learn a lot from it. I mean, who would not watch that movie?
I guarantee you everyone would.
Absolutely.
Everyone on that team would, because they listen to the coach.
Absolutely. Of course they would.